When the demons showed up in this world, many did not know where they first originated from, but stories would go on and on about some corrupt doctor or some sickly patient that would end up turning into the first demon. That man would be known as Muzan, the king of all of the demons. But the main issue was defeating him, defeating all of the demons that stood in front of them. They weren't sure if they could. Frankly, there wasn't a large chance that they would be able to. Hashira and demon slayers alike would sacrifice many hours and lives to make sure that these demons would be vanquished, trying to protect as many humans as possible, hoping that they can save as many people from the horrible things that they've seen in their lives. But sometimes nothing goes according to plan. At the end of the day, what must be done must be done. But there's one man or boy that would eventually show up that would set everything on fire, change everything for they're not sure, either the better or for the worse. A man or a boy that would be able to control a very specific type of breathing style. A breathing style that relates exactly and specifically to demons themselves. Giving him power, he would use the power of a demon and use that in his own breathing style. A very demonic breathing style. Tanjiro Kamado. He wouldn't be known by many. Actually, known by very few entirely. His family was completely isolated, and he was never really let out the house. His face would always be marked up, scarred. They weren't sure how. There would be no instance of it. His father wasn't abusive, his mother wasn't, his family was the nicest you would ever see. But after the age of 5 or 6, Tanjiro would stop going out. It would seem that every time he went out into the sun, he would gain more and more marks. Of course, he wouldn't be severely injured, it would just scar him in some way. It seems that his body, his skin revolted the sun, and it hurt him a lot. So they just never allowed him outside. Frankly, he would just stay in, work on stuff, and help the others with simple tasks, just like helping his mother and stuff like that. But one night actually, he decides that he's gonna go just leave. He wants to take the night stroll that he never does. They're afraid that maybe he won't be able to go outside at all. Of course, this is a major worry for Tanjiro and the rest of his family. But eventually he would go on that night stroll without anybody knowing, and he would feel that everything around him felt better. He would walk around in the dead of the night, walking from tree to just watching the night sky go by. Tanjiro would eventually just sit down and then rest, but he would then fall asleep at the dead of night, and when he woke up, he began to smell something way too eerie. He would run over to the smell of blood. The blood, well, of his family. He walks over to see his whole family entirely slaughtered. Tanjiro didn't even hear it. He fell asleep outside and he was out cold. He feels his body and he tries to get inside so he doesn't get scarred anymore, but he realizes he no longer has scars on his body, and it seems like they don't hurt nowhere near as much. But in an act immediately, he realizes his sister is still alive, picking her up and running her out. He has no idea what happened. Maybe a bear, a wolf, a monster. If his father was around, he could have protected them. Maybe if he was there, he could have. No, he feels too weak. The mere sun itself would hurt him. How could he have saved his family from a giant bear? At least that's what he thought initially. He begins to head toward the mountain, and eventually his sister would wake up, completely in a frenzy and throwing each other off of the mountain or the cliff, landing hard into the snow. They both struggle. Tanjiro begs her to calm down. He doesn't know what's happening, but his sister's eyes are so much different. Her teeth are monster-like. What is going on? Why is my sister acting like this? Tanjiro doesn't know, but he flips her on her back and keeps her detained, eventually tapping her on the head, telling her to relax, to calm down. But just as he says this, it's as if his words alone were flying within her mind and settling there, relaxing her. Nezuko would stop shrink down, and just fall asleep. Tanjiro's in complete shock, picking up his little sister. Well, obviously, really little sister now. She was never this small before. He begins walking with his little sister in his arms and wonders what just occurred, until out of nowhere, a Hashira by the name of Tomioka Gyu, or Gyu Tomioka, shows up, and he questions Tanjiro what the hell just happened. That was a demon. He saw it. The demon was trying to kill him, and that she is not, or that she's dangerous. Tanjiro says no, it's his little sister, and he wants more information on what's going on. He immediately explains. Tomioka just explains straight up that she's a demon, and that demons need to die, and that they're extremely dangerous, but if he wants to protect her, he'll need to do far more than what he's doing now. But he wants to know how he got her to relax in such a way, Tanjiro having no clue, and Tomioka begins to shake his head. There's no way. No, it's not him. Tomioka doesn't even realize what he's really thinking, but he has heard of something like this, a human being able to quote-unquote control demons, but there's more to it. There has to be. Tomioka doesn't know what to think, doesn't know what to say, and immediately looks at Tanjiro and tells him, "You and your sister are coming with me. We're gonna get her under some shade first, though." He questions why, and immediately Tomioka says that demons burn in sunlight. They won't be able to get out of here very easily. So they cover her up, making sure that she doesn't die from the sunlight, and they head over to what is known as the Hashira Mansion. When Tanjiro eventually arrives, after asking a multitude of questions about Tomioka, about who they are, what demons are, and frankly, Tomioka is surprised he doesn't know really anything at all. And actually hearing the story about Tanjiro, it sounds like Tanjiro's a demon, but obviously he would be dying to the sun right now if he was. But it's something in his body, some genetic change that he didn't even know occurred. Nonetheless, they finally arrive at the Hashira Mansion, and they kind of help Nezuko in, because obviously there's certain places that they would have to go through to allow her to enter without getting hurt. But as they enter, all the Hashira are waiting, and they see Nezuko, questioning what a demon is doing here, but Tomioka puts her in the shade and makes sure that she doesn't die. Tomioka says that there is a reason for this, and there has to be if he was doing it, and it's because of the kid right next to him. Tomioka is basically staring at Tanjiro as all of them are confused at who he was. He introduces himself as Tanjiro Kamado, and he doesn't even know why he's here. Tomioka then states, "This kid got her to relax. It's a demon, bloodthirsty demon. He talked to her, and she stopped. I want to know what's going on. If this is the kid that we've been looking for, or if he's just some fluke." Tomioka just gets everybody entirely shocked, and the Wind Hashira says there is no chance that some kid like him is the person that they're looking for. There's no way that he's able to manipulate demons in that way. Tanjiro's confused. Manipulate demons? What are you talking about? I just told my little sister to stop freaking out. Immediately, the Wind Hashira points his blade at him and tells him to stop being so coy. But Tomioka basically tells him to put the blade down, and so does many of the other Hashira, telling him that he's just a young child and he doesn't understand the implications of what he's done and how major that what he's done. In which Tomioka tells him that there's only one option from here on out. It's either his sister dies and, well, he chooses to go on with his life, or he becomes a demon slayer and does everything in his power to protect her. Tanjiro says there is no real choice then. He'll become whatever this so-called demon slayer thing is, but how does he become one? They begin to say that there's training involved, and he'll be training, or his training will be even more difficult, that whatever he has, whatever power he has within him, whatever genetic manipulation he has within his body, it's giving him something different. He will not be able to master any other breathing style. That's a promise. And they can prove it to him in the first 3 months. First 3 months, he'll relatively be able to get a grasp on concentration breathing, but he'll never be able to use any other breathing style besides one style. And they call it demonic breathing. Relation all the way back to the first demon, and frankly relation to every single demon that's alive. It seems as if demonic breathing is all related to them. And there's theories, there's folk tales about this demonic breathing, but they don't know much about it at all. Only anything they've really seen in the history books, anything they've seen in the books themselves. It's said that this last demonic breather was side by side by Yoriichi himself, but was so outclassed to the point that he couldn't even keep up. He didn't train enough, he didn't know enough, and he was far from ready. They threw him into the deep end, and he literally caught fire and burned up with a demon. But nonetheless, they're going to make sure that Tanjiro is not in that same boat. They're going to make sure that he's trained, ready, and willing to fight a demon and willing to take back what was theirs. Freedom in a world where they don't want to be afraid anymore. Tanjiro hears all of this and he's happy. He believes that he can now make a difference, and if that means his sister can stay alive, be safe, he's fine with that. So he begins his training. Various Hashira begin the training with him, and frankly, most of them don't really come across very nice to him. Stone Hashira is very calm, relaxed. His training is a little bit more strength intensive. Tanjiro enjoys that to a certain extent, but then they seemingly want to switch off and on to teach him different ways of going about things. The Wind Hashira is more of that aggressive style and more of that fluidity in terms of the fighting. In terms of the Snake Hashira, he's very, very good with his sword, so he's able to basically teach Tanjiro a good bit around that. Tomioka, yes, he's more to himself, but he's actually a really good swordsman, and he's even mastered water breathing to the point that he has his own breathing style, or his own breathing form. Shinobu has taught him things, Mitsuri has, Rengoku has, Tengen has. All of them have taught him various different things, but it all comes down to him creating his own breathing style. It's hard. For the last almost year, they just taught him various ways that they begin to use their breathing styles, and he starts learning how to use it, starts realizing his power. He begins to swing his sword, breathing in and out at a perfect rate, eventually leading to him creating his first form. First form, Devil's Breath. Tanjiro begins to use this flame on his blade, kind of mimicking Rengoku to a certain extent, but this flame is way, way stronger. It seems as if this flame is built off of blood itself. It seems like him kind of slightly cutting himself, rubbing his blood on his said blade, allows him to stain his blade with his own blood and light it ablaze. What he doesn't realize is his breathing style or breathing form is all connected. Nezuko, who currently does not have proper training but is slowly but surely gaining that training to become a quote-unquote demon slayer, as a demon of course, but she is going to tag along with Tanjiro. She has a blood demon art, but nobody knows precisely what it is, and Tanjiro doesn't either. But this is the relation to that blood demon art. It seems that he's actually able to somewhat mimic, or at least somewhat mimic, other people, or other demons more specifically. And this will become more and more of a precedent as they go on and as he learns how to use his breathing styles. He actually learns something else. Second form, Spiritual Gathering. This actually allows him to heal. It seems that he'll get wounds or basically sun marks, anything that you can think of, and he'll actually be able to heal with just basically a breathing style. Yes, he has that normal concentration breathing that would allow him to heal wounds, but this is at a more higher and greater effect. And on top of that, he has something known as demonic replication that he has no idea how to use. He's learned about it and feels like he can. He's actually made a version of Nezuko that looks all derpy, but then just poofed into non-existence immediately after. But it seems like he has a third form that allows him to do that. He feels that he has more and more forms, and even a form that is very, very interesting to him, but he can't seem to get a grasp on it. He doesn't even know what to call it. So nonetheless, he goes in with very basic forms. We're talking about something known as Devil's Breath that would basically just be him swinging a sword that's on fire, and Spiritual Gathering that would allow him to heal. Demonic Replication being extremely in the beta phase of all. But after some training with people, well, with all the Hashira, and including Kanao and other people like that, he feels ready. And after about, I would say, 1.5 to 2 years, he's finally going to be sent off to the final selection. The final selection is the next step to him becoming a demon slayer. They tell him immediately that he will come right back here after he beats the final selection, and he questions if they have that much confidence in him. They say that they hope that he has enough confidence in himself, but don't get too overconfident. They don't want him to throw away his life for no apparent reason. But after the conversation they head off to the final selection. When they arrive, they are greeted by the two basically instructors of this final selection, and they begin to hear all the rules and what's going to happen. They basically need to survive 7 days, or obviously a week, within this demon-filled forest. So Tanjiro will finally get his first chance at fighting, and he'll definitely see what he can do, at least with a sword. So Tanjiro and a bunch of other demon slayers, and when I mean a bunch, a ton of them, walk into the forest and get ready for their fighting. But as Tanjiro's walking in, every single demon that comes across him seems to stop. One demon actually jumps out right in front of Tanjiro, stops as he stares at him, and dashes away immediately. He's not sure what's going on, but it seems like every single demon that he comes across wants nothing to do with him. Tanjiro continues to walk through until he hears a boy screaming, seemingly one of the demon slayers running away, and he finds that he's being chased by a giant hand demon. This hand demon is currently trying to kill him and is mocking the demon slayer for crying and yelling out. Tanjiro walks up and begins to remark that being a demon doesn't mean you have to be so rude. Tanjiro basically mocks the demon as the demon turns his head about to mock Tanjiro once again, but is shocked to see Tanjiro himself. I need you to tell me something, Mr. Demon, because I know at least you of all these demons can speak. Why is everyone so afraid? Why did every single demon running away from me? Is there a reason for that, Mr. Hand Demon? The Hand Demon is completely shocked to hear this. Maybe this boy doesn't know who he is. Muzan has told them about him. This is the demonic breather, the one that can control demons, the one that can actually take them over if they're not careful. But he might not be strong. Maybe he's not strong right now. The Hand Demon then smirks and basically says that he doesn't even understand the power that he holds. He must be weak now. The Hand Demon attacks Tanjiro, but he quickly jumps on one of his arms, dashing around, slicing all of his hands off immediately as he tries to grab Tanjiro. In almost instantaneous movements, he is completely shocked. The Hand Demon doesn't even know what's going on. This boy, he's not doing what Muzan said. He's doing something different. Of course, Tanjiro doesn't know anything of this whole Muzan, doesn't know much about it. Maybe they didn't tell him for a reason. Maybe they needed him to get stronger. Nonetheless, he wasn't told much about it. But still, he stands in front of this demon and he's outclassing the demon tenfold. It's not even close. Tanjiro immediately gathers the distance or covers the distance, getting hit slightly, but just as he gets hit slightly, it heals right back up. The demon's shocked. Is this boy a demon himself? No, that doesn't make sense. Why would a demon be here? He doesn't know. But just as he's thinking, it seems that Tanjiro's breathing style begins to change, and everything does as well. It seems that he created a new form on the fly, fourth form, a brand new form that is involving the Hand Demon. Demonic breathing, fourth form, Devil's Touch. Tanjiro slices his sword forward as this odd-looking arm begins to just muster up, as if it's just a mist of black cloud flying toward the demon, grabbing onto the face of it. As the hand sinks his fingers in, the demon begins to lose consciousness and entirely getting basically obliterated from the head down, as Tanjiro finishes him off by slicing through his neck and killing the demon entirely. The boy that was basically calling for help is completely shocked. He just watched Tanjiro completely and utterly dominate a demon as if it were nothing at all. Tanjiro puts his sword away as the demon disappears. He gets on one knee and says that he wishes him the best in the afterlife and that he promises that he'll basically pray for him and then hope that the demon would one day be able to come to terms with what they've done in their past. Just as he does this, the demon disappears and he takes the helpless demon slayer up to the top of the mountain for relative safety. Tanjiro continues on, warding off demons, and tells everybody that as long as they're around him, they won't come near them. It seems that they're terrified of him for some reason. Some don't believe it, but others seen the reality of this, as if they're genuinely terrified of Tanjiro, as if he is a repellent for at least weaker demons in this fact. Yes, of course, to a lot of them, these are not weak demons, but as we know, they're extremely weak compared to the other demons that we'll eventually see. Nonetheless, most of the people actually do survive these encounters, and the 7 days would eventually finish up. All the demon slayers would meet up to basically hear from the instructors, eventually hearing exactly what's going on. One of them, though, one of the demon slayers, walks up immediately and basically grabs one on the head, grabbing one of them immediately, saying that he just wants his ore right now. Immediately, Tanjiro walks up, smacking his hand away, telling him to not do that ever again, that is disrespectful, and that he knows damn well that the Hashira have taught him better than that. He scoffs, saying that he doesn't know what he's talking about. He is just some random person they took off the street that they think is somehow a chosen one, and that he is nothing. But Tanjiro just shrugs this off, not thinking much of it, telling him to get back in line. Once they both get back in line, they wait and eventually get their ores. A lot of them heading back eventually to the Hashira mansion after choosing their said ore. Once they arrive back at the Hashira mansion, his training continues. Frankly, there's a lot more he still needs to learn, and of course he's going to go on some minor missions, but the main goal for him is to master his breathing style. They don't want a repeat of what happened quote-unquote in history, or at least what they believe to have happened in history, so they're going to make sure that it doesn't happen ever again. He continues his training once again, and he begins to head on minor missions like I said before. Tanjiro would head on to some simple ones, going to a nearby village of his, actually near his home in the past, and he meets up with some swamp-like demon, hearing that he's been taking some females of some sorts. He's easily able to take the demon out, and actually learn to mimic exactly what the demon can do. The swamp demon actually can make kind of like weird portals of some sorts, and actually pop out wherever he wants to pop out. Tanjiro learning this would be extremely beneficial for future missions, and that would continue to pile on and more. After that mission, he'd head back to the Hashira mansion, get some more training in terms of sharpening his tools, and learning how to use all of his various other techniques, being that type of warping ability that he now has, Nezuko's like devilish blood flame type of art, and also the hand demon. After all of this and basically gathering up more training, he would eventually be sent off to another mission. A mission to a city that literally never sleeps, it seems. So it seems as if this demon is actually lurking about and hiding in plain sight, especially at night when there's tons of lights out. Tanjiro approaches the village and even takes Nezuko this time around in a special box that was actually made for him. It seems that this swordsmith of some sorts actually were able to make a box that would allow Nezuko would go with him, but also be pretty sturdy enough where nothing will actually hurt her, or so he does not, but it's also not too heavy at the same time. Tanjiro would continue on and eventually would come across a nice food stand. The food stand, he just sits down, allows Nezuko out, and they begin eating some food together. More like he's eating and Nezuko's not. Nezuko's kind of just sitting there because she doesn't really need to eat. But nonetheless, he kind of just eats, hangs out for a bit until he gets a whiff of something. An odd smell. A smell that seems way too similar. This smell makes him uneasy. His stomach basically drops, and he tells Nezuko to stay put. He begins to head over to that smell until he sees something. A man walking with a child in his arms and a woman next to him. He walks up to the said man and taps him on the shoulder. The man turns around and the man looks shocked, utterly shocked. Seeing Tanjiro right in front of him, he's known of this boy, but didn't think he would see him this soon. This is Muzan. Tanjiro can tell. He's heard rumors of this man, and why does he smell so familiar? And he realizes they weren't kidding when they told him that story, that there was a good chance that the person that killed his family was Muzan himself. According to them, the only person that could really change other demons, or to people into demons without obviously them volunteering, was Muzan himself. Muzan could do it. Tanjiro stares daggers into him and is about to pull out his sword, but then sees the woman and the young child once again. He's hesitant. What is he supposed to do? He then begins to speak. "Why are you such a bad person, mister?" Why would you be like this? Hurt others, hurt families. Why? Muzan instinctively responds, saying that he needs to find someone that can conquer the sun. Just as he says this, he's completely shocked. What the hell did you do? Immediately, the young child in his arms and his wife, it seems, is confused at what he just said and asks what's going on, and he explains that it's nothing too big. It seems as if he's just in a partial role, and he knows this kid. They've been friends, and he actually works around the area. Tanjiro nods. Yeah, I work around the area. I'm sorry. It's nice to meet you, ma'am. Tanjiro Kamado. And you too, little one. It's nice to meet you. Tanjiro smiles his way through it because he knows that he's made his impact already, but not only has he made his impact on Muzan, he also knows that neither of them can kill each other, not right now. So this is some sort of safe zone. Muzan would not risk killing everybody here. This is too good of a cover story. But he knows that now Muzan will have to move out and do something different. These are all the things that Tanjiro is thinking of at this moment, trying to figure out their next move. Muzan stands there in complete shock as Tanjiro just smiles. Smiles and continues to smile. The Demon King questions himself. Should he try to take this boy's life right now? Maybe he'll become even bigger of an issue. He doesn't know. Tanjiro stands there as Muzan turns away and waves his goodbyes, realizing that it's not the best idea to take his lethal action in this instance. But as Muzan turns back to see if Tanjiro is still standing there, Tanjiro is no longer there. He's gone. He warped through a portal, or just fell through a portal that he made himself, and is now on the other side of the city where Muzan cannot see him. This interaction with Muzan opened his eyes. Any chance he gets, any way he can, he wants to be able to counter this man. He wants to be able to get that leg up. How will he be able to? He's not sure. But that option may arrive way sooner rather than later, as a demon, a creature that seems to be actually nice in that regard, by the name of Yushiro, says that Lady Tamayao would like to speak with the demonic breather himself. Tanjiro meets a demon by the name of Yushiro. Yushiro tells him that Lady Tamayao wants to speak with him. He puts on his little backpack, or his little box for Nezuko, and begins to head over to this building, or this home. But before they arrive, he warp portals all of them over right into the building with Lady Tamayao. Lady Tamayao is kind of shocked to see that Tanjiro was able to do such a thing. Is he some demon? Is he a hybrid? What is he? Tanjiro shrugs slightly and says that he's not even sure. He does have something that they call demonic breathing, in which Lady Tamayao is shocked to hear, especially because she's heard about this through the grapevine from Muzan himself, at least way back when. He asks why he's there, and Lady Tamayao begins to explain, or basically just talk to him about various things, and obviously Tanjiro brings up the idea of curing a demon. Obviously that would be brought up relatively quickly. She says that it's a possible thing, but it would just take some time. That his blood, Nezuko's blood, maybe actually be needed in that regard, especially if somehow he is part demon. Of course, they're not sure, he probably isn't, but the fact that he's gifted with something known as demonic breathing definitely makes them think that there could be a chance beyond this. So he decides to give him the blood of him and his sister, and they speak about needing to kill more and more demons. Tanjiro is about to leave and begins to sense that there is no other demons around. It seems like Muzan has left the scene and has decided to not even try to counteract Tanjiro. The best choice of action, or course of action, was to just leave as soon as possible. Tanjiro, realizing this, makes it pretty apparent that he will be back, and he'll be trying to kill some higher ranked demons, namely obviously the 12 Kizuki, and that he will speak with them very, very soon. He warp gates out of there, or teleports kind of through his little portal using his demonic breathing, and he heads back to the Hashira mansion. When he arrives back at the Hashira mansion, training begins once again as usual, and he begins training with various others. But then word gets around about Demon Slayer after Demon Slayer getting knocked down, Demon Slayer after Demon Slayer being killed, captured, all within a forest that seems so dark, demented, and seems to be basically holding a ton of demons. So Tanjiro will be sent down there. Tanjiro will be sent on that mission with a couple others, but they will be following suit after the fact, because Tanjiro wants his first swing at this, and he wants as much information and as much demon blood for Lady Tamayao as possible. And that's what we're going to be doing and going through in this part of what if Tanjiro had demonic breathing. Tanjiro talks to all the Hashira and then heads over to the forest. He warps him and Nezuko over to the forest, and when he arrives, he sees a ton of demon slayers that are completely strung up. But just as he's about to do something, a blade comes hurling at his neck. He dodges immediately and basically punches this kid in the stomach, but it seems like it doesn't do that much damage. It seems like he actually has pretty rock hard abs, obviously not to be weird, but this person is actually Inosuke. He has a boar head on like normal, and Zenitsu actually comes up basically out of the bushes shaking like a leaf because he's terrified. Nonetheless, they basically are both in the forest, and Tanjiro questions what the heck they think they're doing, and obviously Inosuke does his whole cocky routine nonetheless. And Tanjiro basically tells them not to get in his way and to just be careful and to not do anything too stupid. Tanjiro walks through and doesn't really know obviously who these people are, but wants to make sure that he can keep them as safe as possible. They begin cutting down all of these demon slayers, or cutting off the strings, but they seem to just reconnect as quick as they cut them off. So they decide that they're going to put them all up on trees. So they begin swinging them wildly, more or less, and getting them up on trees relatively easily, and they begin to progress throughout the forest. Eventually, they do come across some stronger quote-unquote demon slayers that have better webbing on them that makes them stronger, but Tanjiro can easily get by these people. Tanjiro decides that he's not going to sit around and just, hang out. He's actually done waiting. So he decides to use his anti-step, or his fifth form, right? His anti-step, to basically just warp portal over to the main source, and he's right in front of the woman that is actually doing everything. But just as he stares at her, she seemingly just drops her hands as if she doesn't care that she's about to die. Tanjiro questions her and even asks, "Why are you just giving yourself to death? What's wrong?" Tanjiro is basically talking to this woman like a normal person, and she's even shocked by this. Why would anybody, a demon slayer in fact, talk to her like she was normal? She begins to say that she'd rather have death, that she'd rather have basically her life taken away, and maybe she can redeem herself in the afterlife. In which Tanjiro just shakes his head slightly and apologizes, saying that he's sorry. He's sorry that things have to be this way, and he's sorry that she was put in this situation, but unfortunately, choices are choices, and choices need to be made. Tanjiro slices her neck off, but basically makes it so it barely hurts at all. It's odd. It's like he has complete control over his blade at this moment, and he was able to give the female demon a peaceful death. After the death of that first demon, he begins realizing that there are more. There is a whole family riddled in this forest, so him and Inosuke begin traveling more and more, eventually finding a larger sized demon, the father demon it seems to be. This father demon is extremely strong, but his blood will be needed for the quote-unquote cure for demons itself. So Tanjiro and Inosuke begin fighting it, and Tanjiro can see that Inosuke is having extreme amounts of struggle. And that struggle continues even more when the father demon's skin begins to harden more and more. But Tanjiro takes it upon himself to finish the fight using his first form by the name of Devil's Breath, and he slices toward the neck of the father demon. He cuts halfway through it as it begins melting through the hardened skin as if it were nothing, as if it slowly but surely begins slicing through the entirety of the neck. Inosuke comes in to the other side and begins sawing at it, more or less taking both of the swords he has and sawing at the other side as it cuts clean through. But just as this occurs, Tanjiro can sense another demon, throwing a vial to Inosuke, telling him to stab that into the demon before it fades away. And immediately Tanjiro disappears through a warp portal that Inosuke believes that he's some sort of witch, that he must be some magical creature of some sorts. But nonetheless, Tanjiro is gone, arriving at actually two demons, and he sees one by the name of Rui and another that is his sister His sister is being basically berated and told to go off and leave forever if she cannot do her job in protecting the forest. She runs off, sobbing, and eventually trying to fight these other demons. Tanjiro stands in front of the young man, or what seems to be a young man by the name of Rui, and he questions why he would talk to his little sister that way. Rui slightly mocks Tanjiro, telling him that this family he has in the forest is his own, that he needs to watch his mouth, and that he has no right to talk in his domain. Rui tells him that he may have gotten some success with the rest of his family, but it won't be the same with him, that he is something else, and that he will die here, and his body will stay here forever. Rui immediately begins to attack Tanjiro, but in a matter of a split second, Tanjiro is no longer in front of Rui, and all that is left is a box sitting in front of him. Rui is confused. Why is this box just sitting here? What is that box anyways? Eventually sensing that that box is another demon, Rui goes to open it to see Nezuko? Obviously he doesn't know who this is, but Nezuko immediately grows in size slightly, breaking out of the box and kicks Rui straight toward a tree. Rui, completely shocked by this, is then met with a sword strike right toward his neck. Being able to just barely dodge, he gets almost half of his neck sliced off, and Tanjiro slightly laughs, saying that might have been a cheap act, but he wanted to see if he can get the job done relatively quickly. Nonetheless, the fight will truly begin now. Tanjiro goes charging in at him and is able to parry all the attacks that Rui sends his way, and Rui can only rely on his quick reflexes and speed to stay away. Tanjiro continues to slash at Rui, slicing at legs, arms, anything he possibly can, and continues to do this over and over and over, eventually leading Rui to using his webbing or his strings to attack Tanjiro. He slices through it slightly, and Tanjiro smiles as he begins to say something. Demonic breathing, third form, demonic replication. Tanjiro immediately is able to replicate exactly what Rui did, and he's able to send strings right back at him, tangling him up and basically making Rui stuck entirely. Rui tries to break free, but can feel how strong these strings are. They're just like his. How are they this powerful? Tanjiro shakes his head as he puts the blade up to Rui's neck and tells him that he made a crucial mistake, that threatening family is the last thing you should be doing, and that you must take care of them with every ounce that you possibly can, and that there is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Tanjiro slices through his neck, immediately killing him, and holsters his sword as he slowly walks away and picks up Nezuko's box as he leaves, beginning to think that Nezuko is pretty strong. He wanted to do a slight test and he was ready to obviously help out if need be, but to see that Nezuko is way stronger than he could possibly imagine, maybe even training his demon sister, that would be extremely beneficial. But just as he begins to think about this, all of the demon slayers and also the people that help out begin to basically come in and start taking away any demon slayers that are down for the count, dead, or whatever you can think of, eventually cleaning up the entirety of the forest and eventually heading back to the Hashira mansion. From this time on, everybody starts training once again, more specifically Zenitsu and Inosuke. Tanjiro is basically on them like glue in terms of their training, and he even wants to train his little sister Nezuko during the nights. And during the nights he does just that, beginning their training and just learning, and for her to learn how to fight on her own. And he sees how strong a demon can be, if they actually just do normal training. They don't just basically eat other humans, they sleep a lot and they train a lot. And he sees this very quickly when he actually realized that one of his blood demon arts is similar to, or his demonic replication is similar to one of the moves that Nezuko actually withholds in terms of this explosive blood. But just as he's learning of this, he hears about a brand new fight, a fight that he will need to take on with Rengoku himself and Rengoku alone. Rengoku requests that Tanjiro would tag along with him to make sure that everything goes, well, basically sweet and dandy. He doesn't want anything to get out of hand. So Tanjiro does just that, arriving at what they know as the Mujin train, and when they board, they begin to basically just figure out what their next course of action is. All of that occurs just as this conductor of some sorts begins to stamp ticket after ticket after ticket. And when Tanjiro gets put to sleep via this ticket, it seems as if everything changes drastically. He wakes up and he seems to be in the snow, and his family is right in front of him. His family is right in front of him? Was that all just a dream? Was everything that happened just one nightmare, quote unquote? Is his family truly alive? Is that exactly what happened? But just as Tanjiro begins to think about this, think about exactly what occurred, his demonic replication begins to go off as he copies the blood demon art of another demon, and it seems like he was put to sleep by a demon himself, and he was able to reawaken himself before anybody else even realized. Tanjiro's eyes begin to water, and he begins to slightly cry as he realizes the situation, and he's extremely frustrated with himself, extremely frustrated with the idea, so much so that he continuously cries more and more and more as these little kids come in and realize he's no longer asleep. He attacks them, not exactly hurting them, but tying them up and leaving them there, trying to basically wake up Rengoku. Tanjiro is just in a blur. Tanjiro is frustrated, completely mad, basically cynical at this point. He warps to the front of the train as he stands face to face with Enmu himself, and Enmu laughs at him, mocking him, telling him that he could have had a nice dream, but it seems like his killer instincts immediately kicked in. In a matter of seconds, he slices Enmu's head off, but obviously Enmu is part of the train itself. Tanjiro grits his teeth and is just furious. He walks over to the front of the train while Rengoku is currently and slowly but surely waking up. Tanjiro stabs into the front of the train as he takes 2 knees on the ground, and he begins to focus his hands on the handle of his blade. Enmu doesn't even know what's happening, and Enmu seems to try to activate any power that he can, but nothing is happening. Tons of this red goo begins to surround the train and wrap around it, seeming to stem from Tanjiro's blade itself. The main conductor, the one driving the train, tries to go outside, but this red goo pushes him back, as if there was some field around Tanjiro. The entire train begins to change. Once a train that was full of demonic blood and demonic body seems to be developing and changing at a rapid rate, Tanjiro has just unlocked a new form. Demonic breathing, 6th form, anti-corruption. Tanjiro seems to be tapping into this power that he has. He's not sure exactly what it is, but it seems to be slowly but surely chipping out the demon hood of Enmu himself. The demon hood seemingly is getting stripped away slowly but surely, and the train itself kind of spits out Enmu as a whole, and the creature, the demon right there, is kind of glitching in a way. Enmu is starting to have some sort of a seizure of some sorts, and it seems as if Enmu is slowly but surely deteriorating. Tanjiro stands over the almost defeated Enmu, slicing his head off, as Tanjiro looks at his blade, and it seems to be a lot more dull than usual. He begins to wipe off the blood, and seemingly he's able to actually sharpen the blade at least enough to the point where it's kind of back to normal. Tanjiro kind of grasps for air immediately, and it seems like he starts hyperventilating. Rengoku meets him outside after helping a bunch of people out, and he basically calms down Tanjiro. He tells him to breathe in and breathe out, to relax, everything is okay. Tanjiro looks at his own skin, and it seems to have his own veins begin to basically bulge out a good little bit, and as he calms down, he begins to relax, and his blood vessels begin to just calm down as well. It seems like the anti-corruption form allowed him to basically dismember Enmu, get rid of his demon hood slowly but surely, but at a cost out of his own blood. It seems like it ripped him apart from the inside out, and it had a massive effect on his body. Would doing that to someone else be that beneficial? Frankly, he's not so sure, and the stronger they get, it might hurt that much more. This basically puts Tanjiro out of commission. He's sitting next to the train and he's kind of laughing about it, telling Rengoku that he was luckily able to end the job relatively quickly. But just as his laughter ends, a different type of laughter begins, and that man across from them, known as Akaza, Upper 3 Demon. Ready for a fight, Rengoku unsheathes his sword, ready to fight alongside Tanjiro, hopefully in the near time. But will he be ready to step in and help Rengoku out? Or will he watch as Rengoku tries to take on one of the strongest demons they've ever seen? Believe it or not, it hurts watching family get beat, destroyed. And that's what the Hashira are for me. In the beginning it wasn't like that. I didn't know who they were. I was just basically pulled off the street. I mean, after my family passed and, well, died, I didn't know what to do. They were able to give me a purpose. I was able to give myself a purpose and give me and my little sister a chance. Chance at whatever life is, I guess. But watching Rengoku stand up to one of the strongest demons I've ever seen in my life gave me the extra will to move. Gave me the extra little bits I needed to gain back my strength. I started using one of my forms. Tried everything that they taught me. And I just got enough. Just enough to even stand. But was that even enough? I don't know. I'm not sure. But I got up nonetheless. And I started walking forward as their battle began to rage on. Tanjiro Kamado. He would walk forward toward Rengoku and Akaza, and ready to fight alongside his fellow Hashira. He didn't want to just leave him to die, leave him to be a pile of bones after all of this is said and done. He never would want that. So what did he do? He stood his ground, and with one foul swoop of his sword, he came charging in. But his body collapsed on the battlefield. He's too drained, tired. He might be healed up, but his stamina is depleted. Tanjiro's on the ground, and Akaza stares right at Tanjiro's head, as if he's ready to kill the young boy. Akaza stares at Tanjiro and can sense something from the young boy, and he realizes that this right here is the person that Muzan was so fearful of. Akaza comes charging in, actually to kill Tanjiro, but luckily this gave Rengoku an opening to actually slice one of his arms off and eventually strike at his neck. Tanjiro is shocked that Rengoku can still fight. Rengoku has gone through immense amount of punishment. This man is practically on death's door. Tanjiro watches the fight continue, and continue it did. Tanjiro continued to try and struggle to his feet, helping Rengoku. He wants to help. He has to force himself to do whatever he can, and he's slowly but surely, hopefully getting there. But just as he feels that he can just help Rengoku just a little bit, Rengoku gets punched straight through the chest, and Tanjiro's eyes grow wide. The death of Rengoku would mean so much to the Hashira. It would break them, hurt them. Rengoku's smile would fade in an instant as his life would leave his body. But what would this mean for everybody else? Tanjiro can't allow him to fade off. He can't allow him to die. Tanjiro immediately begins to activate something else, begins to activate his demonic replication, using Rui's webs, shooting him toward Akaza. As it attaches to Akaza, Akaza gets slightly pinned to the ground, and he immediately anti-steps right toward Akaza, stabbing his sword straight into his chest. He grabs onto Rengoku's shoulder and begins to focus on his second form. Demonic breathing, second form, spiritual gathering. He uses all of his and also Akaza's life force to inject it back into Rengoku. Akaza is in shock as he cannot move. For one, he feels that he's getting weaker and weaker, but on top of that, Rengoku's wound is getting more and more healed. Akaza continues to struggle, grabbing the leg of Tanjiro, breaking it almost in half. Tanjiro struggles, and he continues to hold on to Akaza, creating more webs that surround him and Akaza alone. A fully healed Rengoku is able to struggle to his feet, and Tanjiro looks at him, telling him to back off right now, that there's more things at hand, and his survival means too much. Rengoku doesn't believe that to be a fact. If anybody needs to survive, it's Tanjiro himself. He means too much to this cause. Rengoku stabs his sword into Akaza's arm and forces him to stay exactly still. Both him and Rengoku, Tanjiro and Rengoku, hold on to Akaza, but just as they believe that they're not going to be able to hold on, the sun begins to emit. It shows right in front of them. The sun itself is showing now, but Akaza seems to be getting out. The swords begin to slice through, and Akaza begins to slip out of the swords, but out of nowhere, Nezuko, Tanjiro's little sister, comes barreling down, kicking Akaza straight in the face. Tanjiro is just standing there in complete shock with a broken leg and his body entirely hurting, telling Nezuko to hide, go back in the box, go hide somewhere, the sun is coming out. Akaza smiles as he tries to use this as an opportunity, but Rengoku, Tanjiro, and Nezuko will not allow him to. Nezuko refuses to leave her brother's side, punching into Akaza's chest as it basically just creates extreme amounts of pain and forces him to stay still. The sun officially rises, and as a last-ditch effort, Akaza tries to break the arm and then eventually goes for the heart of Tanjiro, but he only breaks his arm and then penetrates slightly through his ribcage, and he's able to get out of the way. Tanjiro healing himself just enough so he doesn't bleed out. As the sun creeps up, the sun begins to burn away Akaza and substantially burn away Nezuko. Tanjiro screams and tries to get up, but just as he does, he basically begins to panic, panting as hard as possible, not being able to breathe properly. He needs to save his sister. He needs to do it now. But his his vision begins to go blurry, and he starts blacking out. He doesn't know what to do, and all he sees is his little sister Nezuko slowly fading from the head to her toes, but he doesn't see much. He only sees the top of the disintegration from the top of her head. He passes out, and a while would pass. He'd eventually wake up, and he'd wake up on a hospital bed, more or less fully rejuvenated, and Shinobu even walks in and asks if he's completely restored and okay. It seems that his recovery rate is far faster than everybody else's, but the same thing, he was extremely injured. Rengoku comes in as well and is thanking any god that he could possibly think of that Tanjiro lived. But just as quick as basically Rengoku does this, Tanjiro remembers his little sister. Is she okay? Tanjiro stands up relatively quickly and struggles to walk fully, as his leg may be healed, but it is extremely hurt. He begins to walk over, and Rengoku tells him to stop, calm down, that Nezuko's alive. He stumbles his words and he's confused. How is she alive? She was out in the sun. And Rengoku shakes his head. She must have been the first demon to conquer the sun. Your sister's special. Extremely special. She is actually currently outside, standing in the rays of the sun, looking at it, bathing in it. And it seems like everybody else is outside as well, in complete awe. And Tanjiro asks about where's Inosuke, where's Zenitsu, and he actually says that they're on a mission as well, and that mission is currently going on as they speak. Tanjiro kind of struggles outside to see how Nezuko's doing, Nezuko giving him a big hug, thinking that her brother is alive. Tanjiro also in shock that she can literally talk. This is crazy. It seems that their connection and his demonic breathing has allowed her to have an acceleration of how strong she would be in the near future, and Tanjiro is in complete shock about how this occurred. Nonetheless, though, it's good that Nezuko has the capabilities of defending herself, and she's also conquered the sun, but the only problem is, will Muzan know about this occurrence? Maybe not. Nonetheless, they're going to keep her under wraps for now and keep her the heck away from Muzan Kibutsuchi. They're going to make sure that the Demon King cannot come near Nezuko, at least for the time being, as they're trying to make a cure. Shinobu even brings this up, saying that the process is accelerated because of his little sister and accelerated because of him. Tanjiro is glad to hear this, and as night approaches, it seems like Tanjiro is somewhat back in tip-top shape. Of course, he is struggling for here and there, but he is somewhat back. He begins to then hear a crow flapping by. The crow begins to scream that the Sound Hashira is currently fighting with Zenitsu and Inosuke to kill the upper 6 demon. It seems that there are 2 demons technically there, and they're currently in a locked war that may end badly for the demon slayers. They begin to talk about sending somebody, and Tanjiro looks at all of them, and Tanjiro says that he will go. They remark that he's not ready, that he's too hurt. Tanjiro refusing to listen as he completely anti-steps out of there in a matter of seconds. He begins to basically use his anti-step breathing form to get over to their location as quick as possible. He is, in a technical term, the fastest demon slayer there. He's far faster than everybody else, and he continues to just anti-step all the way over. He begins to realize that when he arrives that the fight is almost over. It seems that the Sound Hashira is in a complete struggle, and Zenitsu and Inosuke are currently fighting another demon. But just as quickly as he arrives, he's immediately told what needs to happen. And let's just say, the Sound Hashira is happy to see him there. Tanjiro immediately dives in. Demonic breathing. First form. Devil's breath. He slices into the brother demon, immediately catching him off guard, allowing for the Sound Hashira to find an opening, slicing toward his neck. Not fully cutting it off, but immediately after, Tanjiro uses his demonic replication, his third form. He immediately uses this, and his sword turns into a ton of scythes that begin to slam and slice through Gyutaro himself, slicing all up his body and eventually slicing his head off. All of these slices continue to flurry and fly around, eventually reaching Daki herself. Zenitsu, given that opening, slices toward Daki, slicing toward her waist, and Inosuke slices toward her neck. Slicing toward her neck, immediately both Inosuke and Zenitsu are able to land clean blows as the scythes are able to clean up the rest of the mess. It seems like both of their heads get chopped off at the same time, and Tanjiro is slightly panting and collapses to the ground. Of course, he wasn't fully recovered by any means. He just basically adrenaline dumped his entire kit and his entire breathing form that he could possibly use in a matter of seconds. He straight up anti-stepped from the Hashira mansion all the way to the location they were in, so let's just say his stamina is completely shot. If that wasn't gonna work, let's just say all of them would be dead on the spot. Nonetheless, it did work. Tanjiro comes out victorious, and Tengen stares at him. "You're ready, kid. You're ready." Immediately, Tanjiro is confused. "What do you even mean by that? Can you just get us back to the Hashira mansion? I'm tired." Tanjiro has no idea what Tengen is talking about. So everybody else heads over back to the Hashira mansion, and luckily they're not too injured, but the whole "you're ready" statement is then confirmed and told to Tanjiro that they thought he was ready before this, and that he did beat Rui on his own, but now they know that he's officially ready, and that it's now time for him to take a place with the Hashira. That he will be the demonic Hashira. A Hashira that will send fear into Muzan himself, and all of them and everybody there will now prove themselves to everybody around them that they can fight in this war. This is the first time and the most success they've ever had, defeating the upper 3 demon and then now an upper 6. It seems like everything is falling into place, and the last stop on their list is to find a cure, and not only that, and that's to kill the King of Pop, Muzan Kibutsuchi. And once that is done, peace can be remained back in Japan. Peace can be remained back exactly where they live. Their families would not have died in vain. Their loved ones would not have died for no reason. Tanjiro stares at everybody as they begin to say this, and he's denounced to be the brand new Hashira. But will this mean anything? Will Tanjiro being a Hashira and the new status that he holds, will that mean one thing to him? Will it matter and affect his training regimens, and will it matter in the fight with Muzan? We're not sure. Frankly, being a Hashira is just a title, but Tanjiro is ready to take on that title and take on the Demon King himself. But that is a story for another day.
I don't wanna waste what's left.